what I want to talk to you about now is to embrace the benefits of uncertainty. Let me talk to you about uncertainty today. If you and I go to the airport and, we're going to catch our flight and we get there and we find out it's going to be delayed. Now, that's happened to every one of us many, many times. Let's say we have another connecting flight to get to our destination. Our first thought when our flight's delayed is we say, oh my gosh, I hope I don't miss my connecting flight. So now we're in a little bit of a world of uncertainty. Will my flight take off on time so I can make the connecting flight? And we begin to think in this world of uncertainty. It causes us to be a little bit stressful, a little bit uneasy. And we keep watching that board. And the longer we don't get an announcement, the more we kind of look at our watch. We're uncertain. I mean, uncertainty creates stress. And then all of a sudden on the board, we look up there. Now we see the real time that the plane's going to leave. And hey, it's going to leave even later than we thought. And now we know something. What we know is we're not going to make our connecting flight. I give you that simple illustration because it's happened to every one of us. But here's why I give you that simple illustration. Most people feel less stress with bad news than with uncertainty. Because with bad news, I can now go do something about it. I can now make a plan. I can now look at the other alternatives. You see, uncertainty just keeps us hanging. It's almost like a trapeze artist as they're going from one bar to the other, and they're just suspended in air, and basically they're hanging. And I just want you to know that the reason that many people are insecure at this time is not because we're in a crisis and they're getting bad news. Well, that's definitely going to hurt. But it's because they don't know what's happening. They don't know what's going to happen. In the last 3 days, I have read 18 articles about the coronavirus and leadership connected. And they all had only one thing in common, and that is not one article had anybody that knew for certain when this was going to be over, or how many people were going to die, or what the financial effects were going to be to you and to me and to all of us because we've gone through it. You see, uncertainty is full in the air during this crisis time. So how can I help you this week? Well, I'm thinking about uncertainty, and I would like to talk to you about how to embrace and even benefit from the uncertainty. I'm going to give you some things that will just kind of help you during this suspended time, okay? So let's get going. Uncertainty, number one, takes us out of automatic. You see, what we really like is we like our life on automatic. That's one of the values of habits, good habits. Good habits, we can go do things and we really don't have to think about them and just kind of cut through it quickly. And automatic is a good thing. Most of us really like our day just to kind of be automatic. When I think of automatic, I think of what it likes. It likes order. It likes things to be natural. It's full of automatic is full of assumptions. Automatic loves predictable, enjoys comfort, embraces certainty. That's what automatic looks like. A crisis is exactly opposite of automatic. Total opposite. You see, a crisis is a wake-up call, and it wakes us up out of automatic. One of the reasons I wrote my book several years ago on intentional living was because it was a book that I wanted to help people get out of automatic, to be intentional in their actions and their thoughts, so that they could maximize them. Because let me tell you something about automatic. Although we love automatic, you and I don't maximize anything when we're on automatic. The reason? We're not paying attention. We're just letting it go as it always has gone. And so therefore, when we're on automatic, we lack awareness, we lack intuition. Automatic removes all of that. And so we have to understand that we have to shift from automatic to intentional. And the moment that we begin to become intentional in our thinking, we go back to what I always teach, and you've seen me teach it before. I'm going to just share it with you again real quickly. Everything worthwhile is uphill. And the reason I love that statement is because it's not only true, but it doesn't allow you to be on automatic. A crisis, the difference is that everything worthwhile is uphill, and this is what uphill looks like in good times. It's all uphill still, even in good times. Here's what uphill looks like in a crisis. It's just a steeper hill. And what you and I have to understand and embrace is the only way that we can have this wake-up call to get us out of automatic, that we can excel through this crisis, is to become very intentional in our thoughts, in our actions, not accept our life, but to begin to lead our life. Let me give you a quick example of having a wake-up call out of automatic. When I was 51, I had a heart attack. And I can tell you that was a wake-up call out of automatic because I was on a good path. Things were going well. In fact, hey, the night I had the heart attack, I was going to the Christmas party of my companies. 'Tis the season to be jolly. I was going to be with people I loved, and we were going to enjoy each other and salute the success we had. I was on automatic, and I had a heart attack. Now that wake-up call shifted how I thought. In fact, I wrote this down because I don't want you to miss it. When I had the heart attack, one of the things I quickly, in my wake-up call, realized was that I had to live in the moment now, because it's all I have. No longer did I ever assume I had a day I didn't maybe have. When I had that heart attack, the wake-up call for me to get me out of automatic was the fact that I not only had to live in the moment, but I had to fulfill my purpose. I was born for a reason. Get on it, John. You're getting another chance. That wake-up call that I had told me that I was going to have to be intentional, just what I'm talking to you about right now. I had to be intentional so that I could maximize my life, and getting out of that automatic. That wake-up call also shared with me that I had to be grateful. Just be grateful, because there's no guarantee of tomorrow. I embraced each day after my heart attack much more than I embraced it before. Now, what am I talking about? That's what a crisis does. And I'm talking to you about how to embrace the benefits of uncertainty. Number one, uncertainty takes us out of automatic, and that's a good thing. Number two, uncertainty provides us leadership opportunities. It's leadership time. It's leadership time. Trust me. And guess what? There's not a time now, no more better than right now, when people want to be led. During the crisis, people look around and say, where's the leader? Where's the leader? I want to follow somebody. It's leadership time. You see, here's what I want you to understand. The people want it, and the leaders love it. They love it. I'm very sad because we're in a crisis, but I can tell you there's something within me that is alive during a crisis. And as I'm having the privilege like this right now, speaking to you, it just brings the best out of me, because I just know that maybe you need me now more than you've ever needed me. And maybe the message I have, you need more than you ever needed any message that I have. And so when speaking in a crisis, guess what people want? People want security. They want guidance. They want authenticity. They want understanding. They want care. They want help. They want hope. They want answers. They want consistency. They want involvement. They want visual assurance. And in a crisis, we who are leaders get to give that to people. And in that crisis is where that problem is. But the issue is, every problem, every opportunity is surrounded by a problem. You never see an opportunity alone. You see the problem, not the opportunity. You have to literally get through the problem to get to the opportunity. And guess what? During this crisis, all we see is problems. But let me tell you something. In every problem we see, if we can get through it, if we can get to it and through it, guess what? Inside that, that's where the opportunity is. And I don't want you to miss it. So we are surrounded by visual problems. Hang on, don't miss this. We are surrounded by visual problems with hidden opportunities. I either look at the visual problem and shy away from it and say, oh my gosh, don't want to go there. Or I look at the visual problem and say, I'm going to go there. Inside of there is a way to have a breakthrough. I know it is. There is always an answer. I don't want you to miss the opportunity because it's all around us. It just looks like problems right now. Because let me tell you something. When you miss an opportunity, somebody will find it. So I love it when people say, well, I lost that opportunity. I said, oh, don't worry, somebody found it. But I want you to find it. That's why we have these times together. I want you to see the problems around you have within them the seed of opportunity. In fact, take a moment and just call a time out for yourself and ask yourself this one question. What opportunity is around me right now? Look around. What opportunities around me? Now, when you look around, you see the problem. So which problem do you want to pick that has the opportunity within it? My friend Chuck Swindoll said, we are faced with a series of opportunities brilliantly disguised as impossible solutions. That's where we live right now. So embrace these benefits of crisis and adversity because it provides leadership opportunities for us. It takes us out of automatic. Number 3, it keeps us focused on today. You see, we're all uncertain about the future. The only thing that's real clear to us right now is today. I mean, let's put this right. You and I can't Google COVID-19 right now and ask when it's going to disappear. It's not going to give you the answer. So because of this uncertainty, what leaders realize is that their best work is going to be taking care of today very well. And Mark Cole, CEO of all our John Maxwell Enterprise, Mark understands that so well. And he and I have had many conversations about that. And Mark is saying to me, because I love it, because I've mentored him and he understands the focus on the day. What do we do? What's Mark trying to do right now? What am I trying to do? What do you need to try to do? Very simple. Take care of your people, take care of your clients, and take care of yourself. Now, you say, is that all I've got to do? No, I didn't say that. But I'm saying you got to do that every day. This is where we focus on today. In fact, every evening I'm asking myself this question: did I lead well today? Because today's the only day I've got. And today has a crisis. Unless I'm missing it, this day wasn't void of a crisis. We didn't have a break in it. And I mean, it didn't all of a sudden say, okay, today's going to be an easy, more automatic day. No, today's got a crisis. So I asked myself in the evening, did I lead well today? And I asked myself another question, just personal. Did I live well today? Did I lead well and did I live well? Because let me tell you something. Hang on. Here we go. If I prepare well today, I won't have to repair tomorrow. Don't miss it. If I prepare well today, I won't have to repair tomorrow. The other truth is, if I don't prepare today, I will repair tomorrow. So the clarity is now. And by the way, everything around us is changing. That's what a crisis does. And so in the midst of this change, guess what I have? I have the gift of today and I have the gift of time. In my life, this may not be true in your life. In my life, I have more time to do things than I've ever had before because much of my responsibilities were cleared when this crisis came. So the question is not, do I have time? The question is, am I utilizing that time? Am I focusing today? And am I making myself better? Am I taking the gift of time I have? Am I maximizing it for my people? Am I maximizing it for you? Am I maximizing it for myself? You say, the question is, did I build in the crisis or did I get buried by the crisis? It's your call. Here's what I know. Taking care today will help you build during the crisis. Number 4, one of the advantages and benefits of having uncertainty in our life is that it reintroduces us, and I love this word, reintroduce. It reintroduces us to humility. Now, maybe you are better than I, and maybe you don't need this, but I have a tendency to kind of work in my own strength, and when things are going good, I'm not a reliant person. In fact, one of my struggles in my early struggles of faith was that I had a tendency to rely on myself more than I relied on God. And if I saw it, I just did it, and off I went. And so with the process of self-reliance, slowly humility ebbs out of that. Because humility is an awareness that life is bigger than us, and we can't successfully handle life without the help of others in my world, without the help of God. And so one of the great things that uncertainty happens in my life is that it reintroduces, it gets me back to where I need to be in the area of humility. And why humility is the number one virtue, I think, of all. And why is it the number one virtue? I can tell you why. It reduces pride. It makes us teachable, relatable, civil, approachable, selfless. Now let's understand what humility is. Humility doesn't mean that we think less of ourselves. It does mean that we think of ourselves less. There's a difference. So I'm not talking about being a self-depreciating person. We don't need that. But it does mean that instead of me thinking a lot of myself, I began to think a lot of others. You see, humility is the bridge between success, what I've done for me, and significance, what I intentionally want to do for others. And I can tell you, when we're in uncertainty, we don't have answers. It takes the bravo out of leadership. It takes come to me, here, follow me. You know what? When we raise our hands during a crisis of uncertainty and say, follow me, to be honest with you, we're going where we haven't gone either. So we need help. We need help from you and each of the people on the team. We need help from God. So uncertainty reintroduces you, to humility. Number 5, uncertainty requires us to be creative. It requires you and me to look around and say, okay, I'm going to have to think of some new things here, because what is normal is no longer normal. Now, you know the characteristic, because I teach this all the time, of creative people is that they believe there is always an answer. Trust me, that keeps you in the creative game. If I believe there's always an answer, I stay in the creative game. If I don't think there's an answer, why play the game? So the tenacity, which is needed in a crisis and uncertainty, the ability to follow through, all of that is based upon, I know there's an answer. Remove that from the picture, and I lose my stamina. I lose my resilience. You do it. There is always an answer is the driving force of a creative person. And a crisis, what does a crisis do? Uncertainty, it squeezes that creativity out of us. So here's what I showed you. In the best of times, when there's no crisis, in the best of times, when I'm talking to people about creativity, I give them an expression that you already know. You've heard it thousands of times. The expression is, get out of the box. Get out of the box. Now, that's in good times, because the box isn't where we need to be. The box may give you security. The box may give you the familiar, but the box isn't where tomorrow is, and it's not where your potential is. You got to get out of the box. That's in good times. In a crisis, in times of uncertainty, blow up the box. It's a whole new day. You don't even have a box. Wow. So what happens? When you blow up the box, you can't go back to that secure environment that you know. You can't go back to what has always been done. A beautiful illustration of that is, again, when the coronavirus came, and Mark and I, and we were over in Israel with some of our key players, and Mark is having to lead from Israel with his team over here, and then the coaches around the world. And I just so admired how he every day stayed in the game, and I was just there to serve him, and I didn't need to butt in, but almost every day he'd come over to me and he'd bounce off kind of what he was thinking, and I would just love on him and do my best to mentoring and help him just do this whole process. Okay. And so, finally I could remember the day where I could tell you I could share where we were standing outside of the hotel in Israel when he looked at me and said, I'm going to have to cancel the conference for coaches. 3,500 coaches were going to come to this conference. It's a rallying time for the tribe. It's the highlight of the year. We do it twice a year, but it's a highlight. This is where we gather together, and I just encourage one another and stay focused on our mission. He said, I'm going to have to, we're just going to have to cancel. I said, good call. And you know why he did it? It was best for the people. He put the people first. So then he comes to me and says, I got an idea, John. I'll tell you what. We'll cancel the physical conference, but let's go online and through social media and virtual. Let's have a conference. And guess what? We can go from 3,500 coaches, which are basically new coaches who have just joined us, to 33,000 coaches. We can include all of our coaches around the world. Guess what? Because we're going to go online, we can expand. Now watch how creativity works. You see, the crisis creates the opportunity to be creative. So now all of a sudden we go from one place, one group of people, 3,500 potential, to 34,000 potential around the world. And then Mark comes back to him and says, John, I'll tell you what we're going to do with your section. We'll still be online with our coaches and equip them and do the things that we need to do with them. But let me tell you what we're going to do. We're just going to put you out on all social media. Your message needs to be heard by everyone, not just our coaching team. And so we're going to put you out there. And so we went from 3,500 to 33,000 to 1 million. And it's much more than 1 million now because it's gone viral. That's what a crisis does. It gets us out of the box. It's the difference between a good coach and a great coach. All good coaches have a pre-game plan, but only the great coaches make good halftime adjustments. And you win the game in the second half. It's the halftime adjustments, the crisis, what we're going through right now, what we're experiencing. It's the halftime adjustments that bring your team to victory. And I'm just going to say this because we're talking about creativity. When we talk about we're not going to go back to normal, there's going to be a new normal. I can tell you, I can already start to see some things just pop up above this crisis. This is going to change. Education's going to change. All the online work that kids are doing, they've never done this much online work, and they've never done this much online work in a long period of time. You develop a habit in 30 to 60 days. Can I tell you something? There's kids online right now and saying, you know what? I don't think I need to go back to the university. I think I can finish my degree right here. It's a lot cheaper. I'm home. Whoa. It's going to change. Work at home, businesses. There are people today, they're working at home and they're thinking, you know what? In cities, that's an hour and a half commute that I make every day one way. 2-3 hours maybe lost in a commute. I wonder if I could do this. I wonder if I could do this at home. Now, businesses are going to say, do we need the office space we need? Colleges and schools are going to say, do we need all the facilities that we have? Now, I just gave you a tip of the iceberg, but what's happening? The crisis and uncertainty is giving us a different way to live, which out of it comes creativity until some of the things, not all the things, but some of the things, changes we have, we're going to be better on the other side because we had the crisis, because it's just going to give us a new way of thinking and a new way of doing. Okay, one more advantage and benefit of uncertainty. Number 6, it tests our teaching. It tests my teaching. Here's what I mean. As a leader, I'm constantly teaching, and I'm giving people words. I'm writing books. I'm doing what I'm doing now. I'm giving you words, and in good times, words come very quickly, easily, and cheaply. But in a crisis, we find out if there's a gap between the leader's words and the leader's actions. Because you see, the crisis is not a teaching forum now, it's a living forum. And all of a sudden, what I taught when things were going well have to have the pressure and the heat and the fire of things when they aren't going well to see if what I taught is what I live, because all great leaders, what they teach is what they live. You can't separate the two of them. So there's a gap. Many times crisis has a gap of, here's what I said in good times, here's how I live in bad times. This is the principles I taught in good times, but now that the bad times are here, boy, this is what I find myself migrating to. And so, for example, in leadership, what do we teach? People first. We add value to people. That's who we are. That's what we do. We are people of value who add value to people. That's who we are. So when the crisis comes, we ask ourselves, we find out, are we really people first, or are we me first? Are we looking for ways to escape and not have much harm to us? And well, I'm so sorry about those people. One of the things I so admire about Mark as I've watched him is he's constantly said people first. People first. We're losing money. It's not good. People first. People first. We're not able to hold on to some of the things. People first. People first. You see, uncertainty tests our words. And if our words and our actions come together during a crisis, guess what? That's where we get moral authority. When we get through it, the people say, okay, I heard him in the good times, but I watched him in the bad times. And they're congruent. They're compatible. He is who he says he is. She is who she says she is. Okay. Can I have, 6 more minutes with you? There's just one other add-on, and I know I could stop now, but I don't want to stop quite yet, because I feel that I'm helping you. Because as I think of what I've taught about how embrace the benefits of uncertainty, let me just take you a little farther, just wrapping this up. Give me just a few more minutes. So let me share with you what leaders have to offer people during times of uncertainty. Because there's really no playbook to pick up as a leader and say, here's what you offer to people when things are uncertain. So let me give them to you. And these are just personal. They're kind of easy. Here's what's beautiful. Everything I'm going to share with you right now, you can do for your people. You can do this for your family, your friends, your team. Okay, here we go. Offer, number one, continual hope. It's just the fuel that gets people through the day, okay? And let me just say, this hope, let me define this maybe differently than any time I've talked to you during this crisis time. What I want you to do is I want you to take reality, what is, and I want you to surround it by hope. Reality is the core of what you have to deal with, but hope is what keeps people going. James Stockdale, when he was the highest enlisted officer that was in the Vietnam War, a prisoner of war. And when he came through it, they interviewed him and they asked him how he made it through. And he said something that was very interesting. He said, some people made it, some people didn't make it. He said, the people that were pessimistic, of course, didn't make it. He said, the people that are optimistic stayed longer and hung in there longer, but they didn't make it either. He said, the ones of us that made it, the optimists said, wow, we're in prison, but boy, by Thanksgiving, they'll come and rescue us. So, well, it didn't happen. Oh, by Christmas, they'll come and rescue us. Well, by my birthday, they're going to come. And they kept setting a date of relief and optimistically without any sense of realism too. And they kept getting disappointed, finally they gave up. And Stockdale said very simply, he said, every day I realized it was tough. I didn't like it. I had no idea how long it would go. So I realistically said, this could be a long time. But he also said, but my optimism said, but we will be delivered. So his optimism allowed him to have realism that gave him tenacity to get through. That's the kind of hope you want to provide for your people. Number two, give them grace and compassion. During a crisis, during uncertainty, everybody needs a break. You just got to give people a break. Here's what I know about you, about me, about all of us. Most of us are not our best under stress. And so as a leader, when I see stress come into a person's life, most of the time, I'll say to myself, they won't be operating at their best level right now. And I consider that, and I give them a break. I give them compassion and grace. I extend that to them. By the way, I do think one of the differences between leaders and followers is I do think that during the crisis for leaders, it brings out their best. I believe that for leaders, stress makes them better. But for most people, and we're talking about most people, our families, people we lead, give them a break. Give them some compassion. Number 3, offer them thoughtfulness. Be thoughtful. What I mean by that is just walk slowly through the crowd. Listen to them. Listening is so important. Hear their voices. Reflect. Come back to things that they've said and build on it. May they look at you and realize that you aren't making decisions rashly, that you're deliberate, you're thoughtful, you're considerate. There's a grace and a maturity in that kind of leadership that gives people confidence in you. Number 4, be patient and calm. Because everybody's adjusting, and when everybody's adjusting, emotions are not very stable. And again, just like stress, when people are adjusting, they are not at their best. And what happens is during this kind of a crisis, I haven't really talked about this. Maybe I'll do this in maybe another lesson. Visual awareness of the leader and his or her conduct is huge for people. In other words, during a crisis, if the leader is calm, the people feel secure. Your demeanor, your actions as a leader, so if you're calm, if you're patient, it just sets everybody at ease. Number 5 is just offer them your best preparation. You don't have all the answers, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't be looking for answers. And as a leader, you hope for the best, but what do? You prepare for the worst. And by the way, you don't prepare for the worst without hoping for the best. And you don't hope for the best without preparing. They've got to stay together. They've got to stay together. This is not either or, this is both and. Offer them continual communication. The more nervous people are, the more they want to hear your voice. Don't just talk, though. That after a while can get on anybody's nerves, even in a crisis. When you talk, ask yourself, am I sharing something that's helpful to them? Am I sharing something that perhaps I've never shared with them before? It's kind of like when I come and have these times with you, I look and say, okay, what can I give you that's new, fresh, that will maybe another insight, maybe a different perspective. Offer them, of course, be trustworthy, give them trustworthiness. People more than anything else, just more than looking for your answers as a leader, they want to trust you. When I trust a person, it doesn't mean that they always do the right thing or that they always have the right answer or they always make the right decision, but it does mean that I can count on them. They're reliable. I can lean on them. And then I would just say what I shared earlier, and that is just keep focused on today. And here's what you want to do. You want to help people get small wins, WINS. You want to help them get small wins today. If they can just get a win or two, just a win or two every day, those wins begin to compound. And after a few weeks in the crisis, they can look back and say, I've had a dozen pretty good wins here. It's not been easy. It's been uphill all the way. But just help them win a little bit, give them small wins, and then, get in the game with them and applaud them and do that. And the reason we focus on today is because you just want to take control of what you can control. Most of the stuff in this crisis and uncertainty we can't control. But just grab what you can.
How can I really spot a good leader or a potentially good leader? And the answer is you find them in a crisis. One of the things uncertainty does is it separates the players from the pretenders. It always does. And if you see a person that thrives in uncertainty or is kind of excited because the ball is in the air and they're not sure how it's all going to come down, if you see that kind of person, you can always know that they're a leader, because leaders really do thrive during uncertain times, because that's when leadership is needed the very most. Followers are just exactly opposite. They don't like uncertain times. They want to have security. So when I look at COVID-19 and where we are, let me tell you, I don't know, 3 or 4 quickly benefits of it. One is, and maybe the most important one is this: a crisis gets us out of our comfort zone, and that's something that is never wanted but is always needed. And if you go up to a person and say, "Hey, how would you like to be uncomfortable today?" Most of them say, "Well, no, I don't want to be uncomfortable. I want to be comfortable." And yet, one of the statements I've been making during COVID-19 that's been very helpful to people is that everything you want and everything that you need, but you don't have it. You want it, you need it, but you don't have it. Everything that you want or need is outside of your comfort zone. It's all outside the comfort zone. Because if it was inside your comfort zone, you already would have had it. You would have already said, "Okay, I'm going to go get that. I'm comfortable. I'll move over there." But the moment it's out of your comfort zone, there we begin to build fences, excuse me, and so we don't go there. But what happens with a crisis is it gets you out of the comfort zone. Every person we're talking to right now, every person in America, everyone's out of their comfort zone. There's nobody just saying, "Yeah, I think everything's about the same as it was last year." No. We're all out of our comfort zone. Now, what's beautiful is once you get out of your comfort zone, then go get the things you want and need. Because you've never tried it, because you've never been willing to cross the fence, jump the river. And so the moment that now let's go get it. So what I say about crisis, I define a crisis as a detour. A crisis basically takes us in a way that we're not accustomed to, and it's not one that we want. We like it. We always go this way to that destination. All of a sudden, one day, road's closed. Now you have to go places you've never gone. You're meeting people you've never met. You're doing things you've never done. And what I tell people is, take the detour tour. And not only take the detour tour, embrace the detour tour. Because you're going to have opportunities, thoughts, experiences that you've never had before. And I promise you, 5 years from now, we're going to look back at 2020, and some of the greatest creative inventions are going to they're happening right now. And why are they happening? Because we're out of our comfort zone. And when you get out of your comfort zone, it begins to be absolutely huge what you're able to discover, what you're able to achieve, what you're willing to try that you weren't willing to try in your comfort zone. I mean, right now we're doing more innovation, more creativity, more testing than we've ever done before, because we're out of our comfort zone. A second thing, Ishmael, my precious friend, that is essential, is that it's in uncertainty, which we're in. It's in difficulty and adversity that we learn our greatest lessons. And so this is not only a time to be uncomfortable and achieve things we normally wouldn't have achieved. This is a great time to learn. In fact, wisdom is learning lessons in difficult times. That's what makes wisdom so valued. And so let me just give you an example of that. I have for 40 years had what I call monthly learning lunches. And monthly learning lunches is where I take somebody to lunch. And when I take them to lunch, I ask them questions. And in fact, I ask them 7 specific questions. And one of the 7 questions I ask them is, talk to me about what's the most important lesson you've ever learned in life. And I've asked this question hundreds of times to hundreds of people. And they'll talk about some lesson that they really learned in life. Now, here's what I don't want us to miss. Every time they give me a lesson, the most important lesson they've ever learned in life, Ishmael, every time, not sometimes, not most times, every time, the most important lesson they learned was through some great, difficult, dark, adverse, tough time. I've never had anybody say, no, I'll tell you what the greatest lesson I ever learned was when I was highly successful and when I was right at the peak of my career. No, no. You see, when we're succeeding, we're celebrating. When we're failing, we're learning. And there's a world of difference between those two. And so I tell people all the time, don't miss this opportunity to learn and to grow. Again, 5 years from now, I think the great question to be asked will be the question, what did you learn in COVID-19? And what did you do? What did you do and what did you learn? Because some people, they're not doing much. They instead of becoming people of action, they become people of Netflix. And they're not really moving their life forward. So what did you do? Because what you do and what you learned in COVID-19 is going to tell me an awful lot about who you are when adversity comes. So I was interviewing the CEO of the second largest tech company in the world, and they were on what I call an executive call, where we have people that get into our executive program, and they're on the phone call with me while I interview some high-profile leader, and they give us 20 minutes of what they're doing now, best practices. I then teach leadership off of what they're doing now. Then I ask questions, and lines are open, everybody asks questions. So with the high-tech guy who talked about a lot of adversity and difficulties, I asked him, I said, well, okay, let's talk about what bad decision you make, what failure did you have that you'd like to go back and have another shot at it and do it over. We call it do-overs. And his answers shocked me. He looked at me and he said, John, I've made some wrong decisions. I've had some failures. I've had some setbacks, losses, got all that, got it all. But he said, I don't think I want to do any of them over. And I said, you're kidding me. He said, no. He said, no. He said, the lessons I learned in those difficult times have been invaluable to me as far as leading, but the character it developed in me. The thing that when in adversity, I determined not to quit. He said the character, the inside part of me was developed in those difficult times now. And he said, if I went back and did them over, I wouldn't be the man of character that I am today, and I wouldn't be the leader I am today. So he said, I think I'll just leave them like they are. I'll take those losses. I'll take those failures. And I just love that, because during, again, uncertainty and difficult times that we're in right now, honestly, if we'll allow it, this will help us to become people of character. It'll make us bigger on the inside than we are on the outside, and it'll make us better on the inside than we are on the outside. And let me tell you this one, once the inside works good, you don't need to worry about the outside. The outside's automatic. If I'm better on the inside, I'll get better on the outside. If I'm bigger on the inside, I'll get bigger on the outside. And so I think it's just uncertain times can be very beneficial times. Let's talk about the principle of having courage while facing difficulty. Now, when I think of that phrase, courage while facing difficulty, I think that's the only time you need courage. I've never needed courage in facing something that was easy. I never needed courage in facing something that was natural. I never needed courage on facing something that just fell into my lap. Every time I need courage, it's because it's a dark day, a difficult day. There's something before me that is probably bigger than me. So what am I going to do? How do I get that courage? How do I face that thing that is before me that just intimidates the heck out of me? Let's talk about it for a moment. The first thing I want to talk to you about courage is this, that you will never get rid of fear. So don't think that courage is the absence of fear. If you have no fear, it's not a courage issue, it's a mental issue, okay? We all have fears. The second thing I want you to know about courage is the fact that nothing is ever accomplished unless you do something. And courage gives you the power to do something. Courage gets you up, gets you walking, gets you started. The third thing I want you to know about courage is the fact that on the other side of courage is where the promised land is. In other words, the best things for you aren't on this side of courage, they're on the other side. You've got to go through that door. It's on that other side that you find the yeses of life. It's on that other side that you find the promises of life. It's on that side that you find the benefits of life. In other words, life is composed in this way, my friend. You have to pay a price before you get the goods. It's just the way it works. And any time you get the goods without paying the price, you begin to get a spirit of entitlement, which will hurt you instead of help you. So look at whatever you have to face or go through and understand two things. It will make you a better person if there's nothing on the other side. It will just make you a better, stronger person. But the odds are there's something on the other side. I wonder how many times I've missed that positive something on the other side because I didn't have courage to take action and open the door. I can promise you, I've had a lot of losses in those areas. You see, most of the losses that we have in life that hurt the most are losses that we never know because we didn't get there. So I would encourage you, the next time you see something before you that's formidable, big, intimidating, do it anyway. On the other side, you'll become a better person. And perhaps on the other side, you'll find the rewards of going through that door of courage. I want to encourage you to be a person of courage. It will make you a better person. And we've just come through a very difficult time with COVID, and I don't want to spend much time at all. We all understand what's happened. I just want to make three very quick comments. Number one is, because of this crisis, because of COVID, everybody moved. Everybody was moved because that's what a crisis does. It moves us. It takes us out of our comfort zone. It takes us away from what we have always known or what we have always embraced in our life. And so the question is not where you moved in the last 16, 18 months. The question is, did you move forward or did you move backward? Did you swim upstream and improve your life, or did you drift? And by the way, if you drifted, we never drift to a desired location. No one ever drifted their way to success. But we were all moved. And what happened was the crisis took us out of automatic. We all love automatic because automatic we live in an automatic world and we don't have to really think too much. And automatic is predictable. Automatic is easy. Automatic's comfortable. We just love automatic. But I would just have you to note that everything that you need and everything that I need in our life, and I don't have time to dwell on this, I wish I did, but everything that we need in our life, everything that we need in our life, or everything we want in our life is outside of our comfort zone. If it was inside your comfort zone, you'd already have it. And so COVID just took us all out of our comfort zone, and the question was not, did we end up somewhere that was different and certainly not automatic in life? The issue and the question is very simple. When we got out of our comfort zone, did we seize that moment and get better or did we drift? The second comment on COVID is that everybody was uncertain. You know, leaders love answers and leaders love to be able to kind of project and envision the future, but COVID didn't let us do that, and I, like all of you, I just said, well, I have no idea. You know, I mean, wasn't the most popular question the first 90 days of COVID is, when is this going to be over? And the only people that I knew that tried to answer that were fools. We didn't know when it was going to be over. I'm not sure. I've never been here before. This is different. But the thing that really brings me to the teaching tonight is the third thought about COVID, and that is that this crisis that moved all of us, everybody was discovered. Everybody was revealed. You see, we hear a lot of times that a crisis makes a person. I don't think a crisis makes a person. I think that it reveals a person.
I think when difficulty comes, we find out very quickly who the players are and who the pretenders are. And I can tell you from my heart, and with all fatherly love, I'm extremely leadership sad. I'm leadership sad for my country. I'm leadership sad for the world. But I'm most leadership sad for the church. And I'm leadership sad because I feel that we've missed an opportunity. I feel that perhaps instead of rising above the crowd and leading, we became part of the crowd. So if you'll just let me just share with you and kind of just lovingly walk you through this process, I would like to do that. I just think that you never really know who a person is until the crisis comes, until the adversity comes. I was literally talking with a friend recently, and I was asking about another person that I just had met. And I asked him, I said, do you know him very well? Do you know anything about the character of the person? And I'll never forget, he looked at me and said, well, John, he said, what I know is he just seems like a wonderful person. But he said, you have to understand, I can't vouch for his character. I've not seen him under adversity yet. You see, adversity on the outside requires strength on the inside. Now, Chris, when you're talking about you love the old songs, okay, now we're going to get as old as the hills now. I'm going to go to an old Sunday school song. First of all, let me just do a little. How many of you went to Sunday school? Okay, yes, okay. How many of you have no clue? Okay. In Sunday school, we used to sing a song about the wise man and the foolish man. Would any of you remember this? Some of you do. You remember this? We sang it, especially in grade school. Do you even remember the motions? Oh, let's try it. Come on, let's try it. Yeah, huh? And if you don't know, it's okay. It's okay. Some of you haven't been as fortunate as all of us. And some of you are less educated so that we understand. But for you, in fact, I'm not sure. I think I got it. It's been a long time, trust me. But it went something like this. If I remember right, we started with the wise man. And remember, he built his house on the what? You remember, okay? Remember? So here's the way we did it. The wise man built his house upon the rock. The wise man built his house upon the rock. The wise man built his house upon the rock, and the rains came tumbling down. The rains came down and the floods came up. The rains came down and the floods came up. The rains came down and the floods came out, and the house on the rock stood firm. The foolish man built his house upon the sand. The foolish man built his house upon the sand. The foolish man built his house upon the sand, and the rains came tumbling down. Come on now. The rains came down and the floods came. The rains came down and the floods came up. The rains came down and the floods came up, and the house on the sound went flat. Come on, give yourself a hand. This is huge. Oh my goodness. I'll be leading worship tomorrow. Just kind of feel it. I'm so happy. So many of you, I just thought I would be singing a solo. The passage is Luke 6. And in this passage, Jesus says some amazing things. He tells us to love our enemies. He tells us to practice the golden rule, not to judge others, to give generously. And then he says, what's on the inside determines what's on the outside. He gave the story of the tree. It's on the screen. No good tree bears bad fruit, nor does a bad tree bear good fruit. Each tree is recognized by its own fruit, and people do not pick figs from thorn bushes or grapes from briars. A good man brings good things out of the good stored up in his heart, and an evil man brings evil things out of the evil stored up in his heart. For the mouth speaks what the heart is full of. And then he went to the wise and foolish builders. Why do you call me Lord, Lord, and do not what I say? As for everyone who comes to me and hears my words and puts them into practice, I will show you what they are like. They're like a man building a house who dug down deep and laid the foundation on rock. And when the flood came, the torrent struck that house but could not shake it because it was well built. But the one who hears my words and does not put them into practice is like a man who built a house on a ground without a foundation. And the moment that the torrent struck that house, it collapsed and its destruction was complete. It's interesting in this story that Jesus says that the people that he's comparing, the wise and the foolish, both of them hear his words. But the wise builder puts his words into practice and the foolish builder doesn't. I would say to you that too many leaders today are more concerned about the outside than the inside. And this lesson is about building, not branding. This lesson is about doing, not saying. And I want you to notice that everything is fine in this story until the storm comes. Listen to me. It's the storm, it's the adversity, it's the COVID that shows up what kind of a foundation that you and I have. You see, I'm asked a lot of times, because I live in the business world, I'm asked by a lot, especially younger generation, about branding. I've got 7 companies. We've done very well. And they'll talk to me and they'll say, John, help me with branding. And I said, well, let me just help you with another thought. Why don't you just get good? Just get good. And if you get good, any brand will work. And if you're bad, there isn't a brand that can save you. And I love to take them into my home office when I can. I love to show them my first cassette kits when I went out and started sharing leadership, and I show them to them, and there were stickers on ugly cassette. I saved them because they're so bad. And in 4 years, 100,000 people were listening to those leadership tapes. You see, it's not the branding on the outside, it's the building on the inside. I had a young guy, I was doing a conference, and a couple thousand people, I was teaching leadership, and he came up to me and he said, I just love what's happening today. People are loving this, they're just devouring this leadership stuff you're giving. And he said, I've decided I would like to do what you do. I said, that's great, good for you. I said, let me ask you a question. I said, would you like to do what I did? So you can do what I do. You see, we want to do, but we don't want to did. And the did is the foundation. The did's the structure. The did's the core. But we don't want to did, we want to do. And we not only want to do, we want to do it now, and we want to have it now. And it's kind of like, well, my gosh, I've waited 2 months. We got to change the brand. Something's happened. Here's the issue. If you don't did it, you don't get to do it. And too many people want to live in do land. And they haven't spent enough time in did land. And if you don't did, then you don't do. And if you skip did, you'll be in deep do. That's kind of the modern translation of what Jesus said right there. That's right out of the Maxwell Leadership Bible. In the last 18 months, too many Christian leaders have lost their way. They followed the crowd instead of leading the crowd. They moaned instead of leading. They grieved over a lost election more than they did the loss of values. And sadly, they've been cursing the darkness instead of turning on the light.
But the Apostle Paul said something that really was the catalyst for me giving you the title of my first book I ever wrote, Think on These Things. Here's what he said. Summing it all up, friends, I'll say that you'll be best if you fill your minds and meditate on things that are true, noble, reputable, authentic, compelling, gracious. In other words, he said, you're really going to be at your best if you meditate on good stuff. And then he begins to contrast good stuff with bad stuff. He said, the best, think on those things, not the worst. The beautiful, not the ugly. Things to praise, not things to curse. Now, the Apostle Paul says we have a choice. And in a crisis, I could either think about all the things to curse, and there's a whole bunch of cursing going on and a lot of things to curse, or I can look at that and I can say, no, there's some praise in here. There's something I can be thankful for. Now, Paul, why is he asking us to focus on these things? Why is he doing this? Because he knows that a positive perspective in every situation upgrades that situation. Paul is not saying deny reality. In that verse, what did he say? He said there's some wrong things, bad things, things that you could curse. He's not denying that they're there. They're right in front of you. He's not acting as if they're not possible. They are possible. They're reality. But he's saying what we get to choose is what we think on. Wow. I love that. So, I'm going to give you a challenge. In fact, this morning, remember I said I've been thinking quite a bit from yesterday? This morning, I put this in my notes. I'm going to challenge you. This is one of the most important parts of my teaching today. I'm going to challenge you to be one of the few that take a bad experience and turn it into a better experience. Now, how are we going to do that? So write down that challenge. Okay, John challenges me to take a bad experience and turn it into a better experience. Okay, you got that? Now I'm going to get real practical with you here for the next 3 minutes. How do I do that? How do you do that? How do we take something bad and make it better? We have to be intentional. What I'm going to give you can't be accidental. It has to be intentional. I have to be intentional in 6 things right now. I have to be intentional, first of all, in my personal time. I have a more personal time than I've ever had before because I've had a whole bunch of stuff canceled in my life. So what am I going to do in the time that I have? And I hope the answer is not watch TV. I don't mean that's unkindly. TV's fine. But I hope we're going to upgrade ourselves just a little bit. For example, for me, on my desk, if you went into my home right now, on my desk on the left side, right here on my desk are 6 books. 6 books that I have purposely, intentionally picked out and said, okay, in this downtime, I'm going to read these books. Now, I haven't been able to get to them until now, but I can, and so I'm going to read those books. I'm also going to make it a time of exercise. I'm going to make it a time of trying to get a little bit better and healthy and eat a little bit better in that whole process. Okay, well, that's personal. But the question is what are you going to do with your personal time? You've got to be intentional. I challenge you to be intentional in your personal time to do something that'll make you better. Number 2, your family time. What are you going to do in your family time? I mean, you're having more family time than ever before. Margaret and I have kind of developed a list of movies that we kind of want to see at home, perhaps together, and we're going to take more walks than we've taken before. In other words, what are you going to do with your family that's just going to be positive? Maybe with your family you would want to sit down and share what I'm teaching. Wow, wouldn't that be good? Sit and gather them around and say, look, this is how we need to be thinking. Here's how we need to be acting during a crisis time. Okay, how about catch-up time? How about your catch-up time? That's the third area. And when I'm not talking about ketchup that you put on with fries. I'm talking about CATH. I can catch up on some things that I would have never gotten to. And things like, mundane things like a commitment I've made is to clean my closet out. That closet's need to be cleaned out for 3 years. Every time I go into it, it just looks at me and says, clean me out, clean me out. And I've ignored it. But I got a little time. I'm going to do that. But I'm going to have some time now to really give to a new book that I'm writing that I'm very excited that's going to come out soon. And so now I can really focus on that book. Okay, how about, here's a good one for you. Number 4, be intentional in your adding value time. Okay. In a crisis, people need encouragement and added value more than any other time. So why don't you every day write down one name of a person that you need to encourage, a call that you need to make, just a touch that say, I'm going to add value to these people today. Get intentional. You'll be surprised not only how it'll help the people, but how it'll help you. Number 5, I'm a person of faith. You don't have to listen to this, but I have what I call my faith time. Well, what am I going to do as a person of faith? Well, one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to develop my trust muscle. I'm going to really work on that. And a trust muscle basically means I'm going to have to trust God to give me strength and peace when I don't have all the answers. And by the way, if you're not a person of faith, you go ahead and do that. You'll find out how He'll help you too. He's no respecter of persons. He loves you every bit as much as He loves me. But I'm going to work on my trust muscles. I'm going to work on my gratitude now, because gratitude is most hard to express during difficult times. And I'm going to work on my prayer life. In fact, I spent time in prayer for you today. Okay, just asking God to give you strength during this time. And then, okay, the 6th thing I want you to work on is your thinking time. Your thinking time. And I want you to put yourself through a positive grid. This morning, I wrote 3 questions I want you to consider every day as you think. Question number 1, how will this crisis make me better? It's a great question. Give yourself 10 minutes, 15 minutes every day and say, okay, I'm going to write these questions down. I'm going to think upon this. How will this crisis make me better? There are answers. If you think about it, you'll find them. Number 2, how will I use this crisis to help other people? Wow, that's huge. And by the way, you're going to get an abundance of answers in that, because everybody needs help in a crisis. And number 3, what action will I take? Oh my, this is great. What action will I take that will improve my situation? What action am I going to take that'll what can I do that'll just make me better? Okay. When we come to you monthly, we expect you then to take what I teach and say, okay, for the next 30 days, let me apply that to who I am, what I do in the Zifra business. And today I want to talk to you about the 21 from my book. I wrote a book several years ago called The 21 Qualities of a Leader. In fact, this is going to surprise you, because people come to me all the time. They say, Chuck, I want to be a leader. I want to learn how to lead well. Where do I start? In fact, they'll say, what book do I begin with? And whenever they ask me that question, my answer always surprises them, because I tell people, if you really want to be a terrific leader, the first book that I've written a lot of them, on leadership that you should read is The 21 Qualities of a Leader. Now, that's a very popular book. It sold millions of copies, but it's not by far one of my best-known books. And so when people say, I'm surprised that you would have the 21 Qualities of a Leader, and here's why it's so important. The qualities that I'm going to teach you here in a moment, and I won't have time for 21, but I'll teach a few. The qualities are foundational for your leadership life. If you're just going to build a one-story house, you don't really need much of a foundation. You can just kind of put a cement slab underneath of it, and you can build that one story. You don't need a great foundation, because you're not building a great building. You're just one story. But if you came to me and said, I really want to build a skyscraper, in other words, I want my leadership just to stretch to the heavens. I want to do big things in leadership. The first thing I would say to you is you've got to get the foundation right. If the foundation is correct, you can build a skyscraper of leadership for your life. And the foundation are the qualities, because the qualities, those are the things that express who you are on the inside. The qualities are in such a way that they make you better on the inside, so you become better on the outside. They make you bigger on the inside, then you become bigger on the outside. And one of those qualities, I have time just maybe for 3 or 4, but one of those qualities is character. And character is so essential to who you are, because it's character that it makes you trustworthy. You see, a person with good character has authenticity. What you see is who they really are. A person with character has terrific integrity. They tell the truth. They keep their promises. They do what they say they will do. They become very trustworthy. And trustworthy is essential for great leadership. And when a person has good character, it is foundational for them. But it's not only foundational for them to build their leadership, it's foundational for you to build a relationship with them. Because you know that they have the character, the strength, the core, the anchor, the foundation that will really allow them to serve and do you very, very well. You see, when people are going to follow a leader, one of the questions they ask is, can I trust that person? Well, character is that quality that makes you, it's that quality that makes me trustworthy. So it's a beautiful thing. So I tell people, before you work on the outside of your leadership, work on the inside of your leadership. You know, another quality of a leader that I talk about in the 21 Qualities book is the quality of commitment. And it's so essential for leaders to be men and women of commitment. And why I say that is because commitment separates the doers from the dreamers. You see, in your business, a lot of times they talk about the dream. And, you take the dream, what do you want to become? Sometimes you post it on your refrigerator, and this is who I want to be in the future. And to have a dream is a good thing. But one of the things you're going to learn about the dream that you have is the dream doesn't come true because you have the dream. There has to be a quality that makes that dream a reality, and that quality is commitment. And if you're committed, it takes you from being a dreamer to a doer. If you're not committed, you're just a dreamer. And there are a lot of people who think that the dream is enough. It's not. You see, the dream is free, but the journey isn't. That's why people like to sit around the table and talk about what they would like to become, and they have these great dreams. But honestly, when you get up from the table, you've got to make it happen. See, dreams are free, but the journey's not. And since the journey, which is what brings you to the reality of that dream, it costs something, commitment is the core. Commitment is essential quality for you to have as a leader to make your dreams come true. Another quality that I express in the 21 Qualities of a Leader book is generosity. The willingness and the ability to give on the front end. A lot of times people say, well, I may give to that, but I'm going to see what I'm going to receive first. And a lot of people are saying, well, if I receive something, then I'll give. And they don't understand that sowing comes before reaping. No farmer ever went out to the fields that he hadn't worked, that he hadn't sown any seed in, and come fall look and say, well, I wonder what kind of crop I'm going to receive this time. It's impossible. You see, fall harvest is only a reality if there's been a spring sowing. It always begins with not what am I going to receive, but what am I going to give. I have an expression sometimes I use that I love, and that is, your candle loses nothing when it lights another. If I have a lit candle and I am generous towards you and I extend it to you and you can light your candle off of it, my candle doesn't go out. I just turn on 2 lights instead of 1. And I think there's a scarcity mindset that many people say, well, if I give, I'm afraid I'm going to lose something. And they don't forget so many times that what they lose if they don't give is opportunity. Generosity opens the door to incredible opportunity. It opens up the door for us to have life change and to help change lives. And one of the ways that you build a successful business is to be extremely generous. Angela Ahrendts, who was the CEO of an incredible company in London, and then she became also number 4 with Apple, the highest paid female executive in the world. I think her last year she made $78 million. We were having lunch one day, and I said, Andrea, what's the best advice you ever received? And she said, my father taught me as a young child, give 60 and take 40. In other words, always give more than you ever expect to receive. And then she smiled and she says, 60 is enough. And I've discovered that that's true, that if you give 60 but only ask 40 back, if you're always giving more than others, there's an incredible relationship that is built. But that means that you're now sowing seed in others. Robert Louis Stevenson used to say, I determine the success of my day not by the harvest I reap, but by the seeds that I sow. I love that quote, and I think he's exactly right. I determine the success of my day every day, not by what did I receive, but what did I give. And I would encourage you to become intentionally generous. Now, I only had time today to give you 3 of those qualities: character, which is the foundation; commitment, which literally compounds over time; and generosity. But if you'll just build your leadership life on those 3 things, this month, just intentionally do those 3 things every day to every person that you meet.
Welcome to the Maxwell Leadership Executive Podcast, where our goal is to help you increase your reputation as a leader, increase your ability to influence others, and increase your ability to fully engage your team to deliver remarkable results.